Okay. Catherine here. Hi, Christine. Hi, Loretta. Hi, Paul. Let's get to bigger thing here. And put it over there. Yes, I can. Good. Oh God, I'm getting old. There you go. Okay, everybody. All members are here. Meeting starting at 7:05. And first thing on the agenda. Let's get it up to the right place here. So all members are present. Hear from the public. And was there someone who would like to speak from the public? I don't hear anybody. Can everybody still see the meeting? I'm assuming, and the people in the meeting? Yes, good. All right, well, moving along. Can everybody hear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. First selectmen's briefing.
Well, excuse me, I thought Loretta wanted to talk about the open space. Is this the time for her to talk about it?
No, what we have on, if we look
I
down
didn't see it on
here,
the agenda.
it's not on the agenda.
Yes, it is. It's in the bottom.
It's down towards the bottom.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I
This
see
is
it.
for,
Yeah,
yeah, it's item, new business, item C.
okay, sorry about that.
Sorry, and sorry it's down so far, but we're gonna get through the other things as quickly as we can.
Well, Catherine, I'm glad to make a motion so we don't tie people up.
Oh, good idea.
I'll make a motion to move under new business, item C to the beginning of the meeting for convenience of the attendees.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Thank you. Motion passes. So here we go. On the open space, this is again, item 8C,
C.
thank you. And the selectmen have been provided with the information that Loretta, you provided to me. So they have that in front of them. And I don't know, Loretta, do you want to speak? You know,
Do you have anything?
you provided a lot of information. Maybe you could just summarize it.
Yeah, basically, this was our second time we went to Board of Finance, and what we discovered is that it may be very unclear about the open space, how to use the funds and everything. So what the conclusion was that we should form a committee with the Board of Selectmen, and I think Christina said she would be on it. And also from Conservation Commission, Christine Acevedo said she would be on. So that's the bottom line. What we found out, or what I found out when I checked with the adjoining towns, they all have very robust funds that contain like $200,000 and have continued to buy land, purchase land, because they have ongoing yearly donations. And what we were suggesting is the yearly donation be from the amount of money that we get in lieu of taxes from the Yale Forest, which is about $8,000. Presently, we have about $2,000 in the fund. So we thought it was a really good idea to get some real clarity about the process. You know, when we are looking at using the open space fund, do we go to Board of Finance? Do we go to Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, or how do we do it? And all of the towns that I checked with them basically have a town meeting, and people vote on whether or not this is a good plan. And right now, Willington is purchasing some land on Burma Road, which is very close to Langheimer. So other towns do this on a regular basis, on a yearly basis. A couple of towns don't on a yearly basis, but if they don't, they do it every other year, or depending on what's going on. So that's, if anyone has any questions from that. Yeah, Catherine.
The only question I have is when you were speaking was, you're saying that, some towns vote on it. What, are you really talking about voting on the purchase of the land or or every year they vote on whether or not to move those monies into that fund?
No, I think that's a thing they vote on every year, because I believe it's an online item in their budget. But the town meeting is for everybody to decide whether to take money out of the open
Understood.
fund. you
Okay,
know, if everyone agrees beforehand, that's the procedure. I think that we're looking to get some clarity about how we would use that. If first of how we would use it and what would get set up, and then how we would do that. I think that's a question that we just have a recommendation. And I think the Board of Selectmen has to decide how that would be done, or what would be the best process to follow.
if I could ask for just a little bit of history. In the past, when we have gone into agreements with the state on purchasing land, did we take money from that fund or did we take, that's what I thought.
Yes.
We took money from that fund. So that's a process we already have. And there was a town meeting about that.
Yes, that was for both when we bought Crook's Orchard.
Yeah,
And also when we bought what was it?
Knowlton.
Knowlton Farm.
yeah.
So
we take-
that's one, and it had gotten, pretty high before that, because we had to agree to pay, I think it's 25%, I think. The state pays 75, we pay 25%.
We took money out for Crooks, we took money out for Knowlton, we basically cleaned it out for Knowlton.
Right. Right. And that there's various ways. I think if people go out of, when they've joined on to 490, if they go out of that fund and want to do something with their land, they pay a fee. And also any subdivisions pay a fee or give some land to the town. It's a choice, I think, in the past that's been made.
I think that giving the land to the town is a piece of the property that they have and it's that they're purchasing.
Correct.
And it's always a piece we can't really do anything with.
Right.
Because that they can't do anything with and we can't do anything with. So it's a sliver. So, ideally it would be to get the money to put into the fund.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the part of the process that's not clear.
Yeah. Comments or?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, some of the confusion came up either last year or the year before, when Yale wanted to give us the stipend of $8,000 or whatever. And the Board of Finance at that time was uncomfortable designating it printed. And they debated it for 2 or 3 meetings. And I'm not sure anything was ever done with it.
They just it just went into the
General fund. Prior to that, we used to, whatever stipend we get, however we got, whether it was 490 or Yale or somebody else, we put it into that fund. And I think there's gotta be a written history of us doing that. I'm not sure why the Board of Finance it seemed to be very clouded on their thoughts on that when we tried to address that a couple of years ago.
Okay, so we have a different board, which is,
Yep.
And do we think that, that the Board of Selectmen would recommend to the Board of Finance, going back to that practice?
Yeah, and I think we had done it at that time, but like you said, it's a different board and different attitudes.
I know I'll be meeting with them on Thursday
Yeah.
evening.
I'm comfortable, at least with that $8,000, with reminding them that we're comfortable with dedicating it to the open space.
That's a good start.
Right. Yeah, it's a good start.
All right. So are we at a point, I don't want to cut off anybody or anything, but are we at a point where we would just make that simple motion?
I will make a motion, unless there's further discussion. I'll make a motion to authorize the first selectwoman to make a recommendation or to pass on to the Board of Finance that the Board of Selectmen supports the allocation of the Yale monies into the open space fund.
And we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing it to us and providing us all the information to take back to them.
Did we want, did, Loretta had mentioned a task force, or is there something to study it, or is this, you're just gonna put it to the Board of Finance?
Well, actually, what we're putting to the Board of Finance is something very specific, which is town aid, oh, I'm sorry, now I forgot what the,
The Yale.
Recommend.
stipend
Yeah,
for-
Stipend, yeah.
to do that. As far as a task force, when we say a task force, are we saying a group of people to look at other funding opportunities for that fund?
Well, I had understood, and maybe Loretta can correct me if I misunderstood her, that the Board of Finance was a little bit confused about where
Process.
the money was or how to allocate it. Is that up to them to figure out?
No, we'll
Originally-
tell them where it is.
Originally, the open space fund started with the subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
Where if you were gonna develop a subdivision, you either donated a parcel to the town or a monetary, not donation, with no donation, whatever. That was up to the Planning and Zoning Commission, whether the land that whoever wanted to donate was worth accepting or not, and they could insist on a cash donation. And that's, I think, how the fund started.
The other thing is that, as Bill mentioned, there is a process in place, and it has taken place. Chris, you know this also, that we've done this, we've purchased land, we've voted on it, and it's
Mhm.
gone through. But somewhere along the line, that process may have gotten, forgotten or not clearly designated. But if you look at the history of those funds, it is there that that's what we did. And that process, I believe, worked very well. I think,
It's a simple process because it's a town meeting.
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Catherine,
Documented evidence.
Yes,
of-
Paul?
can I don't want to speak as a member of the Board of Finance, but since I was at the meeting when we talked
Yeah.
about this fund, I will speak as a member of the public. The Board of Finance's issue wasn't that we had the fund, it's that the fund is not listed anywhere in the budget. And the
No.
Board of Finance would like the fund to be a budget item that the town votes on yearly, just like we do every other expense or expenditure. So that the townspeople understand where, it's not so much where the money is coming from, but that we're putting that money aside and what it's being put aside for. Does that make sense?
I think that,
So the concern was that if the Board of Finance said, we're gonna take the pilot money and just put it over in the corner for open space, there's no recollection of that money actually moving. And the
Right.
townspeople have no say. And this way, what the board was saying was that it should be listed in the general fund budget so that the people know what's going on.
it can't be because we tax for that budget. Okay, so we're talking about money that's coming to us from the state.
Right, but it's showed as a revenue. So it would be offset by the revenue side, just like we do for the rec departments and the library or several other departments. Youth services, I think, gets money from the state as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked with Sherry Susie about this, and that was no part of the discussion. It was just, you can communicate to the public outside of the budget process, we have an annual report. We have the audit, which shows what our funds are.
Right,
And bear with me, and in the budget letter for the budget each year, there can be a statement that's put right up there on the front page of the letter that says, these monies were approved at town meeting to move into this fund.
okay,
That's another way to go about it, where you don't
Okay.
have to create another line item in our taxable budget just because you're trying to show pass through. We don't do that for other funds that I'm aware of.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Paul, is past years, did we not have a line item called special revenue?
But that's revenue.
yeah, that's revenue. That's,
Because I think that's where it was anticipated. As far as I know, that the stipend from Yale, if that's what we're talking about, varied from year to year.
correct,
Yeah.
And it wasn't required, so we listed it, I don't know if I believe we called it special revenue. But there was no designation for an expenditure because what we were hoping to do was accrue enough in that fund that if we had something present itself with the town where we wanted to purchase a piece of property or an abutting piece of property, that we would have that resource, and then we would consult with the Board of Finance and go through the process depending on what the project was, but the expenditure was not ever designated.
Right. So
Right.
what we can do is, before the Board of Finance meeting. Yes, Chris, she's showing the fund. Bear with me.
Sherry and I were talking about this the other day,
That's
and
what
we
it is.
think it's in there.
Yeah, it's in miscellaneous special funds.
right,
So we have all kinds of little funds.
There are little funds that go into there, but we
Okay.
have a specific amount that comes from this. I almost want to call it a stipend.
I think where the problem was that wasn't pointed out, that there was a time in our past where we did want to designate it for open space or to purchase a land for that use.
Right,
And I think that's where it wasn't clear to the Board of Finance
right.
when we made the last presentation.
That sounds right. What I can do is we can meet with Sherry, Susie, and go, okay, what's the best way to manage this? Based upon the fact we have other funds that we put monies into as well. So we've got options, I think, for how we do this. And so when I come to the Board of Finance meeting on Thursday, I'd like to present what those options are. How's that sound, Paul?
it works for me.
Okay.
I'm just saying what,
Oh, I'm glad you brought it up.
When we were talking about it at that meeting, that was what the concern was, so.
Right. I think
Okay.
there was concern too, at one point in time, I think they didn't know we had a fund. And I don't think the rest of
Yeah,
us.
that could be just the new members don't know that this money, that fund existed, so.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
All right, so does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right, anything else on this? We thank you for your involvement and participation. Okay, moving on to the next thing.
Okay.
The first selectmen's briefing. I'm gonna go through it quickly. You guys have printed copies. For everybody else, Ashford state of emergency, the Ashford state of emergency burn ban issued November 2nd was removed Tuesday, November 27th due to the change in fire hazard conditions. Thank God for rain. Open positions, emergency management director, we have no applicants to date. Board of Selectmen clerk is a new position, and that position description is going to be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen later on in the agenda. Land Use Department, scanning of documents, the total cost for this project is still being determined. The initial estimate was 50,000 for scanning and indexing. Total cost needs to include technical work involved to make this information available online to the public via NECOG's GIS, and we're looking at that. Knowlton Memorial Hall gutters, Public Works is scheduling an on-site meeting to discuss guarantees and options with the owner of the gutter company that the town contracted with to patch the gutters. They've done it a few times now. The concern is that the still leaking gutter seams will create a safety issue, like an ice slick below, for the public. Public Works is also obtaining updated estimates for the other two vendors who originally submitted bids to replace the gutters. Sound right, gentlemen? Because I know we've
Yep.
talked about
Yep.
this. Knowlton Hall outside lights, the bulbs have been replaced. We looked at something that was between what was very dim and very bright, and the very bright was almost blinding, so we went with something middle of the road.
I think
Hopefully
it's an
it works well.
improvement. Yep.
And just as an aside, quick aside, speaking of outdoor lights, the fire department, from Thanksgiving through New Year's, you put up a red light or whatever it is at the fire station. It's all about people not having fires occur because of these holidays, you know. And so we are putting one up in what I call the belfry of this building as well. That'll go up a little later on this week. We're sorry we're a little late putting it up. So to support that. Town of Business outside pole lights, the electrician has not been able to identify the lighting maker in order to order replacement parts. The original lights were installed when the town office building was built. The lighting heads were replaced in around 2006 as part of a program with Eversource. I believe it was Eversource. So we need to research the old files to find out who the lighting maker is. You just-
Catherine, when I came in tonight, because I have a habit when I'm looking at it now, I noticed none of the pole lights are working now. Is there a reason?
Is
for
there
that?
one working out there?
I didn't notice any.
I'll go down and check the
The
timer.
only lights that I saw were the ballast lights, ballard lights going down the stairs, but none of the post lights were on.
All right, that could be something where there's a dial downstairs,
Okay.
and sometimes it clicks off if we lose power. So I don't know
Okay.
if we have recently, but we'll go check.
Could I just suggest maybe, does Eversource have a program that maybe would replace these old lights? 'Cause
We
I'm
took
sure-
advantage of their program before, so I don't know if they have a new one for us. We do know that the last work was to replace the lights with LEDs. Was that correct, Chris? And so they had programs to replace old lighting bulbs, fixtures with LED ones,
Right,
but you can't go back and do it twice. So we did it once. Now it's a matter of, I don't know if we can do it again through them.
okay, I was just thinking new light fixtures might be more efficient than the ones that are that old.
We
They-
know.
If they have a plan.
We
to
also
replace
have, our electrician looked at it and he wanted to put in the same lights as we have over at, on Tremco. And those ones kind of really aren't in keeping with the architectures here, for what it's worth. So we were looking at, is there something a little more in between? But that would be it'll be a pretty expensive project, and I don't know if we have Eversource or state support for that, so we need to check on that. Okay, in the meantime, first thing was, what's the cheapest alternative to get the lights working for right now? Okay, and the quickest, and that would be to get the replacement, understand what we have for those poles and light fixtures, so that our electrician can do that. The fact is, there's nothing on the poles or on the fixtures that indicates who the maker is. So it's a mystery and we're working on it. Okay. The Old Moore property at the entrance of Pompey Hollow Road, which the town owns. The Economic Development Committee plans to meet December 18th and identify candidates for the Committee of Residents with Realtor experience that they would like the Board of Selectmen to form to develop a strategy for marketing the property. We talked about this at our last meeting, and I'm just letting you know when they're meeting, because I asked if they had any names of people, individuals that would be good. These would all be Ashford residents with some kind of Realtor
We had
experience.
done that before. for that piece of
I don't
property.
think they've come in to look at the packet, the pile of stuff we have. They have a packet that was created by a previous Economic Development Committee, which
Yeah.
we think we have a copy as well. So, anyway, thank you. The steep grant. DOT reviewed all the invoices and proof of payments for the subject project total of $579,722.06, and the invoice summary processing, ISP, has been submitted for final review approval. Reimbursement is expected to be $479,722.06, which is the documented expenditure amount less the $100,000 required municipal match. So we're on our way. I don't think it's going to take all that much longer. Shared animal control services, municipal leaders in Ashford, Willington, Stafford, Tolland, and now Mansfield has come into the mix. And a CROG representative, that's, what is that? Central Region. I forget what CROG stands for. Something of governments, probably. Representative are continuing discussions about funding, building, and sharing a new animal facility.
I think that's capital regional government.
Thank you. And they know we're not in CROG, but they will work with NECOG. Okay. So, and with this, we don't know where it's going. We just know that a number of us have facilities that are no longer going to meet standards, the new standards, and which start in, is it 2029? 2027?
27.
Yeah. Anyway, so, yeah, and it will certainly be pricey to put one up, but we're all talking and going, okay, what's this really going to be? How would this work if we were going to do it? And that would involve all of the towns putting in for a steep grant for this. And, we know we need steep grants for other things as well. So, I just want to mention that Stafford apparently does not need, in all likelihood, a new facility. According to Bob, their first selectman.
Bill,
Oh, it's Bill. He stopped in at my nail salon the other day over there. He's thinking that they're in pretty good shape.
they need upgrades.
I think they need upgrades, but they don't need to replace it like us. Okay, Ashford Academy usage and maintenance. The Ashford Historical Society has a goal of opening the academy for business use in conjunction with the United States 250th celebratory events to be held in Ashford during 2026. They would like to attend the December 16th Board of Selectmen meeting to discuss academy usage, maintenance, improvements, and funding options. They do have a new head of the Historical Society. She's very nice, but they would like to come in and talk about that. In the meantime, they've asked questions about the insurance, about inside maintenance versus outside maintenance, who's accountable for what are the responsibilities. So we'll try and work with them before that meeting to just make sure if we have anything documented, that we've at least pulled that out for them to look at.
They used to be, for lack of a better term, in charge of the academy
Correct, I remember
and
that.
gave that up in its entirety,
They gave up the academy in its entirety?
with the exception of storing things in there, which we could never get an inventory on what they said was theirs and what was the town's.
Okay,
I don't have an objection. We're transparent here in sharing that information. But how does this coincide, or would it coincide with our newly established 250th anniversary committee?
do you mean, would it be related to the committee's work?
Well, it's mentioned here.
They just want to, because of the
Open it for
events that would go on
business.
that year, one of the events they would like to have is opening the academy.
Okay.
So they have a target date
I
in
guess
mind.
I'd like to make sure that we've established a 250th anniversary committee that they're in the loop on this?
I am pretty sure they are, because the people on the 250th anniversary committee for this United States, they're in the Historical Society.
Okay, I know there's been a lot of transitions there recently, and I'm not sure
Right.
who's in and who's out. but
And
Whoever the players are,
yeah,
I think we ought to make sure that the 250th is in the
in the
discussion.
mix, in the mix, yes. Certainly will.
You said there's a new president or chairman of the historical?
Yes, and her name is Chris
Salazzo.
Salasso, yes. And she has previous experience with kind of treating things from library materials and things like that, and filing and how to keep them safe.
Good.
She has major concerns, I know, about things that are being stored in garages and things like that.
Good.
And her, definitely one of the things they did is they went down there, they all put on masks, and they cleaned up the academy inside. Oh, they did that at least a month, maybe 6 weeks ago.
Okay,
So, they're putting their backs into it. So it is a lofty goal, depending based upon some of the things that would have to be fixed there in order to open it up in that fashion, though. So I'd like to, she's given me a list of what they want to talk about. I didn't want to throw it at you in this meeting, but I'll work with them to make sure you got something in advance of our next
Good.
meeting to look at. Okay, and there, this was the last thing, and this is just before tonight's meeting. The invasive plant working group. This is kind of born out of people who went to the Our Town, Our Future planning meeting, 2 months ago? And they are quite enthusiastic about this, when they got together. Actually, pulling together a group and the whole thing. And what they'd like to do is attend our December 16th. Gotta fix that. December 16th Board of Selectmen meeting to outline a plan of education of landowners, inventory of problem sites in town, and engagement of volunteers in addressing the invasive plant species issues in Ashford. There's a surprisingly large number of people who are very concerned about this. And I think that they are because they grow stuff in their yards and, they've got gardens and stuff. And this is definitely something that keeps coming up. And, I know that the companies that provide us with soil and gravel and things like that, they are supposed to be very careful about not giving towns anything, anything that would carry these plant species. Basically infecting whatever properties. And there was a lawsuit against, was it a company or a town? Because of the materials that were delivered to a home and the invasive plant species that came up.
Would this kind of like constitute a roadside cleanup sort of thing too, or
I couldn't hear you.
would this constitute a roadside cleanup sort of thing as well, or?
I don't know yet.
Okay,
Let's let them come and talk about what they feel would be effective.
are we still getting that nipper money?
Yes. Because we keep selling nips. But the nipper money can only be used for our transfer station.
I thought roadside cleanup too. Other things.
Yes, roadside cleanup, but it's bottles and things like that. I don't think
Yeah,
it's plant
okay.
life.
No, I just-
It's the effect of
It
the
seemed to
bottles.
me that environmental language was in there, which you might be able to construe as roadside. But
Okay,
historically, we
Good.
dedicated to the transfer station.
good to know. We definitely have issues where we do hit those invasive plants when we're doing our roadside mowing. And that does spread them. And it's hard to move, to recognize them immediately. You're not mowing slowly, because you kind of have to really be looking very hard for them. And then what do you do? And that's,
Yes, Catherine, excuse me, Joe did come to our last Conservation Commission meeting, and talked about what he's done so far and researching stuff.
Oh.
And he's also involved with other town working groups. And he attended a conference where many other towns in the area are doing this also. And part of the goal is education, not only for residents, but also for town maintenance people. And a few years ago, we did do that. Charlotte Pyle came and talked about invasive
Yeah.
species. And so that could also be something that could be part of this group that we
And-
could deal with
yeah.
later.
And just be aware, our maintenance team is aware of invasive species. In fact, in particular, Casey is extremely knowledgeable.
Uh-huh.
That information has been provided to them. I know at one point Jennifer Sterling Foker asked, she said she could come and talk with them about it. And what I found out from Casey at that point was he knew quite a bit about it.
Right,
And,
right.
and that has been conveyed to them. I think one of the problems is when they're working pretty much as hard and as fast as they can because there's so much work to do and we have limited staff.
Mhm.
So then it becomes, how do we do this? Maybe there's a collective way that we can attack this and make a few changes there, but then we need volunteers to help us with it.
We need definitely volunteers, and that was the other thing we talked about. Plus, the other thing is there's constantly new invasive species.
Yes,
So it's a constant, you got to keep abreast of it, and a lot of them are really difficult to get rid of, such as knotweed.
yes, the knotweed is something.
Yeah,
They even have knotweed down at the transfer station.
yeah.
Actually, I should say at Public Works. It's not at the transfer station. Okay, so was there anything else you might have questions about that are not on the agenda? Very good. Thank you. The next thing, school roof replacement project status. Chris pulled together.
Minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, minutes. Acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 18th.
Move to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Hear from boards, commissions, committees. Hearing none. Old business Ashford School roof replacement project status. Paperwork has been gathered and sent to the school for filing with the state. Correct? I can't remember.
I gave it to you to
Oh,
look at.
I'm doing a final look at it and then it's going to the school. They've had a couple of leaks that have to be addressed, and apparently the companies have gotten out there to take care of that. I'll be talking with the superintendent to make sure that that's been taken care of. There are some questions that I put out to the vendors that we've used for this, that I'm expecting answers on, and I haven't gotten them back yet. So I may have to call another meeting. We haven't had a meeting in a couple of weeks, ever since we did the inspection of the roof. One of the things was that the architect had a punch list that he developed. We were all on the roof, but so was our building official for this, and building inspector. And so he put his own punch list together. And then I went to do a comparison, and they weren't in the same timing, so I had to go back. When I went back, I found out that our building official, Jim Quish, was no longer covering us for a while. They have someone else from the Bolton group that we work with, from Jim Rupert's group. And I had asked for comparison. I actually wanted our inspector to look at the list that the architect put together and go, okay, he's covered everything, because the architect's list looked a lot looser than the punch list that our punch list that Jim Quish put together was more specific. So I just want to make sure everything is covered. That's how I found out that Jim wasn't going to be working for us until January, just cyclic in terms of his role here. But Jim Rupert has assured me that he has other people covered. So in the future, they will let me know when they change players.
We've gone through that before.
Yeah, my thing was that I didn't hear about it until I was trying to get the information, and I got
It's happened
like an
before.
away mail thing. Okay. The town building use fee schedule and Ashford Food Bank donation policy, please don't ask me right now. It's going fine. No one's complaining. Review reallocation and approvals included in the ARPA accounting to be presented to town meeting on Saturday, December 7th. Chris, did you put something together that has that for this meeting, or was that from our last meeting?
Last week.
I will. I'll have a handout for Saturday.
Oh, for Saturday. Okay, so we don't have one we need to look at.
Not for right now, I can put it
Okay.
together and email it.
Okay, so this is waived and it'll get emailed to all of you.
Because if I remember right, our last meeting.
You
we
gave me
authorized
permission.
You to make some tweaking. here and there.
Didn't have to.
Okay, good.
Update on Kettle Rock EPA lien status. No report. We're waiting for Peter Tanaka, sorry. I had to go through my list of names here mentally. Peter Tanaka to come be available, and he won't be available until at least next week. Is that correct, Chris? But we're prepared to sit down with him and take him through the information we have, kind of a Reader's Digest version with a few other details, so that he's up to snuff on this, and then we can see what we're doing going forward. Actually, after that, we would meet with the council for this, correct, Chris? With Ann. Once we bring Peter up to date, then we'll meet with Ann, who's working with the state.
No, she's working with EPA.
Okay,
Yeah.
EPA in the state. All right, new business. Board and commission appointments. We are losing people from our boards and commissions. It's unfortunate. So I'm not sure if this is totally up to date because we lost one from the board. We're losing one from the Board of Ed as well. The ones that we've been losing from these boards here, at least 2 or 3 of them were because they're moving out of town to be closer to their families. So, we appreciate the efforts they put in so far, but we can understand why that would be more important. So we've got these vacancies. I did put a list of the vacancies as of the 15th of last month, 15th, 6th, actually as of the 18th. I put that list of vacancies in the Citizen, yeah.
I do have somebody that's expressed an interest, and I'll get the name in that for you.
Which one? Which
um,
board?
For the Agricultural Commission.
Oh, good.
I'll get that name in that, but I said that probably the best thing would be if we put you in touch with one of the members or
Sounds,
officers, so they can give you an idea on meetings.
send us something that
Yeah.
says something about this
Yeah,
person.
so he's gonna do that.
Okay. And what we'll do is we will continue to keep that section in the Ashford Citizen
Good.
and keep updating it every month.
Okay, and I have something, if it's appropriate here, adding someone to the Conservation Commission.
Yes,
Because we had a Democrat resign, Steve Mortico, and we want to put Pam Summers back on because she had to leave because there was an error in her appointment. Because we only had one unaffiliated. So if I'm requesting that we put her back under the commission and still look for another unaffiliated Republican, which we haven't been too successful with that, but hopefully we can round up somebody.
well, why don't you send us something in writing? Okay, stating what your request is.
Okay,
Guys, or do you?
Yes,
Okay, yep. That would be good. Thank you.
send it to you
Yeah,
or to
That-
everybody?
you can send it to me and
Okay.
Chris, and we'll make sure that it gets on our next agenda.
Okay,
And that would be the agenda of December 16th, Monday,
Steve
December
Curry was
16th.
asking about the
okay, thank you.
Steve Curry was asking about.
Okay. Um. Tax refunds, we have none.
Right.
Discuss and act, okay, we've already done that. Senior Center Director, Municipal Agent for the Elderly position. I believe we needed to have a formal motion.
so move.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Salary is already.
Right.
Yeah, we've
discussed.
already discussed,
that-
and you have a copy of the letter that I put together. I sent it through
Maybe
email and I
email,
put it in your
yeah.
box.
Okay,
Okay.
aye,
like,
Aye, thank you. Motion passes. The new Senior Center Director will start on January 6th. Okay, discuss and act on part-time hourly rates for the following positions: Treasurer's Assistant, Assessor's Assistant, and Selectman's Clerk. So,
I would suggest this be done in.
executive session, that's
because
why I
it's a
wanted it at the end of the meeting, so.
Human resource.
Okay.
issue.
So what
Sure.
we'll do is, because I can't control shutting off everybody here, and stopping the recording, is, what we'll do is we'll leave, if it's okay with you, put that on the bottom of the agenda, after, item F. And then we will, go out of the live meeting and we will conduct that executive session here.
Excuse myself.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And then we have, the next thing is agenda items for upcoming Board of Selectmen meetings. And so I've mentioned two, the Ashford Academy thing and the invasive plant working
Have a good
group.
night, Jen.
And actually a third, which would be the filling of one of the Conservation Commission, one of their vacancies. Do you have anything else?
Nothing comes to mind
Okay,
right now.
all right. So at this point in time, we're going to go out of the Zoom meeting and go into executive session.
I've got 7:50.
7:50. Give me just a second here. Yeah, let me get us out of this.
I will motion into executive session to discuss HR matters.
Okay, and
second,
do we need a second for that, Chris?
one second.
Second? And a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.